Welcome to Seed Creative Academy, the home of how-to. My name is John Prest and I'm Creative Director here at Seed. We're going to create a series of videos that are going to interview industry professionals in filmmaking, animation, storyboarding, and we're going to find out what makes them tick, what influences them, and most importantly, we're going to have a look at their portfolio. First off, we're going to speak to Kieron Edwards. He's a storyboard and concept artist based here in Leicester. We're going to find out from him how he got into the industry. We're also going to find out what he thinks is the most important toolkit to break into the industry. Here's how the interview went.
My name's Kieron Edwards. I'm a storyboard artist and I'm a concept artist as well.
Ghibli, brick, tablet, RGB, digital. It's going to have to be Luke. Anakin was a bit shit. PC. Whoever's doing the best training, and it doesn't matter whether it's a degree or not. They're drawing women. Come on.
Best way to explain it is comics are a very good analogy. What you're doing is you're taking the story and you're putting it into pictures, and it's really the first go that you have. The film turns up as a script and it's the first pass at directing. It's almost the first go that you have at what it's going to look like visually. Okay, let's suppose I have a project at the moment where there's a giant made out of fire and loads of different people have to work on that. So there'll be modelers, there'll be animators, there'll be people working on the background, and they'll all have their own idea of what this giant on fire looks like. So to kind of unify what everyone's doing, what they do is they get a concept artist to do a picture. Now obviously this picture might get changed a bit because the director might go, oh, can you make the fire a bit green or can you make it a bit blue? But eventually a picture emerges from a scene and everyone can look at that picture and say, that's what we're working towards. So it's a sort of a way of the director deciding what a particular visual will look like. It's also a way of directing everyone. You know, so if you draw a picture, if you have a painting of something, everyone sort of knows exactly what they're aiming towards, what they're trying to achieve at the end of it. Because if you don't, your creatives just do this, they just go off in their own directions if they don't have that. I think the genres that influence me and my work has always been like 80s action films. Because I was about 12 when I was watching these films, and I had a mate who managed to sort of get all the rented films that were sort of 15 and 18s that I wasn't supposed to watch, and we all disappear around his house. And this is when I saw, you know, your Predators, your Aliens, and all this kind of stuff. So that's really influenced my work a lot. However, I look to anime a lot because I think anime's got something about when you strip it all down, anime's got a really good way of framing stuff and telling a story visually. It's just, I think the Japanese are a little bit better at this. So what I tend to, if you get me painting, I'll do something that is digitally done, but it looks like an oil painting from like 1970s fantasy. But when you actually sort of break it down into where characters are and all their positioning, and even just tilting the camera and stuff like that, it's a very anime derived, just because I think that's where it's at. Probably having come out of university for a few years, I came across a book called How to Make Comics, and one of the things that I realised from it, which was a very, very important lesson, was that I might have been dead good at university, but I wasn't as good as I thought I was. So what happened was that made me go back and basically relearn my craft, because what I realised was that I didn't have the minimum skills to be able to do this. Next big milestone was probably working over the road when Dusk Till Dawn existed, because that was really useful. That was a group of people that were like-minded, and in a weird way, I regard that experience over the road with Dusk Till Dawn as my real degree, because all the stuff you do on a degree, you're supposed to do on a degree, I did in that time period. Probably working a bit with the McGibneys was quite important, just because they're great people, but they were like, it's good to have a really challenging client sometimes, one that will bring you along but demands results, because If you sort of learn the school of hard knocks with a bit of a tough client, everyone else is really easy. So you can sort of, if you're sort of like having to work at that level for someone, then it's really easy to sort of like, it's almost like sort of like boot camp in the army, working for somebody like that. And I suppose the last one is sort of like just getting a bit of a break just a year and a half ago. So now I'm working on quite a big feature film. You know, and that's this, yeah, the work I'm doing right now is like a big milestone.
Jackie Chan. Duh. Alien. I'm with Tom actually. Japanese. A bit mad. Netflix and chill actually. Actually storyboard. Storyboard, because it's like you're closer to directing a film without any of the responsibility.
Draw. You need to be able to draw. It's the first thing people will see. So you can tell within about 5-10 seconds if someone can draw or not. So if you're sort of turning up with sort of stuff that's not that good, you've basically turned everyone off in the first 5 or 10 seconds. The other thing is, you might have really good ideas, but if people can't see that you've sort of like put the effort in to sort of actually learn the craft, they won't have any confidence in you. They'll just see Stickman and go, well, this guy, you know what I mean? This guy probably started 5 minutes ago. So yeah, that's really important. And then another one, this one's a bit more vague, but it's just being able to sort of like string a story together in pictures. And it sounds like an easy thing to do, and I think it's more innate. But there's a lot of artists out there who are wonderful artists. But if you said, okay, make a story out of put four pictures together, make a story, suddenly they're in trouble. Can't really say why, but that's hugely important as well. This actually comes back to the drawing thing, which is, if you struggle with drawing, every single drawing will be a battle, okay? And eventually you just run out of energy. Whereas if you happen to be just really good at drawing, you know, it's just like, oh, you do one drawing, then you do, and it's a fairly easy thing to do. So you don't get worn out by the process of drawing. You're just going, okay, well, what if the character's doing this? Or what if we get this angle here? You know, whatever. You're thinking about the next step of where this is going to go, rather than thinking, oh hell, I'm not sure if you see, oh my god, his hand is foreshortened, how the hell am I going to draw that? And then sort of like wear yourself out trying to do this. So the weird thing is I work particularly long hours, but the more skilled you are, the less of a slog it is. That's kind of what I'd say. Any answer's going to just sound dodgy. The naked figurines, absolutely honestly, is because sometimes there are just poses that I can't think of, or they're in an awkward angle and I just have to sort of pose this thing and then just draw it. Unfortunately, when I'm not doing that, they're just sort of like lying around on the desk, or worse still, they'll see me like looking at a figure like this, just intently drawing it, and it looks bonkers. The roll of toilet paper on the desk. I draw on a graphics tablet, and I put a piece of paper on it because I like the sort of like the texture and the control you get. Unfortunately, if I put wet hands, there's no hand dryer here, so if I put wet hands on that paper, it all goes crinkly. So I have to sort of be really anal retentive about drying my hands. So I've got a roll just to sort of make sure everything's perfectly dry, and then I'm too lazy to put it in the bin, so there's just like a pile of rolls of paper right next to Johnny here. There was a training video for the police, and it was about a guy who had some mental issues. He suddenly he was perfectly normal, had these mental issues, and he went up onto some monument in London, took his clothes off because he was overheating, and then he sort of fell off backwards off the monument, basically died. Now, the guy was completely fine before this, and the issue was that they didn't have particularly good footage or photos of it, but they also wanted to kind of protect this guy's identity. So my job was to do sort of concept stroke storyboards they could sort of zoom into as they were telling the story of what happened. so that you kind of got a fairly good quality image that wasn't completely crap, but the other thing, more importantly, it protected this guy's identity. So that was pretty weird. Drawing and painting never goes out of fashion. So that's, that's the first important thing. I think concept art is probably a bit easier for people to sort of wrap their heads around, even though the skill level's quite high. But essentially what you're doing is you're just painting in Photoshop. So you're just getting your head around Photoshop and using it as if you were using oil paints. I mean, obviously there's the issue of working with people, because I mean there's a lot of really good artists that it's either their way or the highway, and actually sort of getting opportunities to work with people. I think that this is the sort of like the main thing, is software comes and goes, but actually sort of being able to work with people, that's a massively important skill, and I think you only learn it by doing little projects. And I think, to be honest, if you can get yourself onto some project somewhere, you're going to learn from that project. So you might start on a little project and then go on to a slightly bigger project. Storyboarding, again, if you're just drawing and you get, I mean, I started storyboarding for a mate of mine, and he fed me beer and pizzas, okay? And we just scanned all these drawings into Premiere, into a video editing thing, and that's how we made the film. Storyboarding, the good thing about it is you can learn as you go along. So as long as you've got that, as long as you can string a story together and you can draw, you can get started, you can get your foot in the door, you can start getting experience. Obviously I'm not going to sort of like, there's loads of things you could look into. There's lots of stuff you can get and read. There's some really, really good books out there. But the good thing about it is, as long as you can draw and as long as you can tell a string story together, you can get started, and the rest of it is just normal development that you always do.
We hope you enjoyed Kieron's story. If you want to find out more about him or you want to see his work, visit his website right here. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, make sure you subscribe to our channel. To find out about Seed and more about the work that we do, take a look at our website. It's seedcreativeacademy.co.uk.